What's up? What's up? It feels like a long time. I know I always say that, but it's true. I wouldn't lie to you. It feels like that. Okay, hey, it's
Monday.
It's Monday. Chameleon Church Monday night gathering. We're going through Proverbs. I was informed since we've last gathered at our Monday night gathering, I was informed that the Romans series on Root Awakening will be released in October. That means we're going to be doing a whole bunch of Proverbs between now and then. And that's what we're going to do because, well, that's what we're doing. And what else? Registration is closed for the conference. That's it. That's all she wrote. No more zilch. And, man, if I said I was excited, I'd be lying. I'm very excited. It's going to be a great time. It's going to be awesome. Those of you that show up early on Wednesday night, we're going to do what we've done in the previous years. We're going to go out to dinner Wednesday night. So if you're going to be around Wednesday night, let us know so you don't get left out. And so we can go out to dinner. That was a great time last year. What else? I'm just so excited about the conference. Got a bunch of people coming, and I'm going to probably be an emotional wreck for half the time. Just letting you know up front, because God does that, and it's just really good. God's really good. His Spirit is really good, and I'm very excited, humbled, excited, and I can't believe I get to be involved with something like this. It's so rad. Jason, are you left behind? Is that why you're posting that? I don't know. This guy always, man. Are you not going to be on Zoom? You're not going to help moderate? All right, whatever. All right, I'm going to push a bunch of buttons right now. Let's see if let me turn this on. We got to get these buttons going. That's on. And we're going to have to turn, I don't know, man. What am I doing here? Let's try it. Ready? We're going to go there and then there. Oh, that didn't work. Hold on. Oh, you would think I knew what I was doing. There we go. And then I got to do this. One more. That's 3 buttons. Woo! You'd think this was a professional organization. I know. What is it? You fake it till you make it. You give the impression, right? Like you belong. You act like you own the stinking place. Yeah. And then things happen. All right. We are in, okay. I don't know if you can hear that like it used to. There's a big vibration, right? I put foam. I actually put foam there that I've been meaning to put there. I guess that's not going to work. I'm going to have to put it on its own stand because I tend to do this kind of stuff. Anyway, how's everybody doing? Everyone's looking really good. You guys look so beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, you good? Everyone good? Yeah, all right. Yeah, okay. All right. No one's talking, but you know why?
It's Monday.
That's right. You know what I was doing for about 80% of my day today? Yep, new song. Started writing a new song a day or two ago. Very pleased. I'm so happy. I'm excited to get to do some new music. All right. I guess I'll start. We're in Proverbs number 12. And then, of course, the idea is that you interact and say, oh, I want to read. Do the whole, remember, was it Epstein? Welcome back, Carter. Oh. Was it? Yeah. How old? Am I the only one? Am I that old? The rest of you don't even know what I'm talking about, huh? All right. Hey, that's cool. All right. Starting with, Father, this is your word. We're going to have a good time. Here we go. Verse 1. Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge. This is a very important thing. I love knowledge, and my wife has always said, how can you do that? How can you just allow that type of discipline, or being corrected or whatever? Because if you're going to do this thing, do it right. If you're not going to do it, get the hell out. You're just wasting our time and you're wasting your own time. You're better off being cold than being a poser, mediocre poser, and getting spit out later. I mean, it's not worth it. Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but he who hates reproof is stupid. And we've talked about this before. That first run of Proverbs actually talks about the stupid, lazy person. And Proverbs is designed, these writings are designed to make stupid, lazy people not stupid and lazy anymore. And how do you start with that? The fear of God, beginning of wisdom. And then step 2 is keeping the covenants, keeping the commandments, walking in obedience. That's how you obtain, there's your discipline, and that's how you obtain knowledge. And you can actually walk through this life without sinning and being holy and perfect like Jesus told you to be. But Alan, if you could do that, see, it's a convoluted conversation. We discussed it way too much. So anyway, you don't want to be stupid. Don't be stupid. Don't be afraid of reproof. Don't be afraid of correction. It's like remember when Sarah, she overheard, who was it? Was it Jesus and some angels? But when they said, you're going to be pregnant, this time next year you'll have a child, and she laughed. And they go, why did you laugh? She goes, I didn't laugh. And he goes, yeah, you did. Most people would go, I thought you laughed. That's what people do, right? People will actually facilitate your lying or your untruth telling. But no, you can't do that. You have to go, no, you did. You laughed. You said that. You did that. Now you're insulting my intelligence because now you're lying to me. See, don't rebuke reproof. And don't be afraid of it. It's good for us. It gives us knowledge. Because if you love discipline, right? There you go, right there. A good man obtains favor from the Lord, but a man of evil devices he condemns. No one is established by wickedness, but the root of the righteous will never be moved. Like that. An excellent wife is the crown of her husband, but she who brings shame is like rottenness in his bones. The thoughts of the righteous are just, the counsels of the wicked are deceitful. The words of the wicked lie in wait for blood, but the mouth of the upright delivers them. The wicked are overthrown and are no more, but the house of the righteous will stand. I'm reminded of that great picture of the Nazi flag in a menorah, and then 40, 50 years later, the Nazi flag is down and all of that's down, but the menorah is still sitting in the same window. Remember, I've posted that before. Yep. Righteousness will stand. A man is commended according to his good sense. There you go. If you're stupid, you don't have good sense. But one of twisted mind is despised. I know a lot of twisted people out there. Better to be lowly and have a servant than to play the great man and lack bread. Oh my gosh. I'm from LA. This is the entertainment industry right here. That is the problem. This is what happens. This is the entertainment industry right here. They play the great man or I got the great gig, I got the great project in the works and all lined up, and nothing. Whoever is righteous has regard for the life of his beast, but the mercy of the wicked is cruel. See how we treat animals. Yep. Whoever works his land will have plenty of bread, but he who follows worthless pursuits lacks sense. A lot of people do that. Whoever is wicked covets the spoil of evildoers, but the root of the righteous bears fruit. You got to bear fruit. And you'll know if you bear fruit, there's going to be reasons why, but there's also reasons why you don't bear fruit. All right, who wants to continue reading? Starting with verse 13.
Hello.
Hello, who's going?
Jane.
Can you hear me?
Hi, this is Alan. Who's calling? Oh, it's Jane from Tennessee. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good.
This is a marathon right here, right?
The wicked is trapped by his own sinful speech, but the righteous finds a way out of trouble. One can be filled with good as the result of one's words, and one gets the reward of one's deeds deserve. Fools suppose their way is straight, but the wise pay attention to advice. A fool's anger is known at once, but a cautious person slighted conceals his feelings. He who tells the truth furthers justice, but a false witness furthers deceit. Idle talk can pierce like a sword, but the tongue of the wise can heal. Truthful words will stand forever, lying speech but a moment. Deceit is in the hearts of those who plot evil, but for those advertising peace, there is joy. No harm can come to the righteous, but the wicked are overwhelmed with disaster. Lying lips are an abomination to Adonai, but those who deal faithfully are his delight. A cautious person conceals knowledge, but the heart of a fool blurts out folly. The diligent will rule, while the lazy will be put to forced labor. Anxiety in a person's heart weighs him down, but a kind word cheers him up. The righteous guides his friends' way rightly, but the way of the wicked will lead them astray. A lazy man doesn't roast what he hunted, but when a man is diligent, his wealth is precious. And the road of righteousness is life, no death is in its pathway.
There you go. That's all right. So, how do we want to proceed? Does anybody have any about any of this?
Well, Alan,
Hey,
I know we talked about this a long time ago about being shrewd.
yeah,
Christians aren't shrewd. We're actually pretty unwise. But verse 23 talks about that. As a cautious person conceals knowledge.
yep.
But the heart of a fool blurts out folly. And I think we really, really need to be praying for, it's not just discernment, but it's knowing, being shrewd, knowing who you are and where you're at. So
Yeah.
that's a constant struggle for me, like at work, and just to shut up and let the stupidity roll, play out, and don't get involved.
Yeah, sometimes we want to correct the situation, right? We want to go in there and fix it.
We got wisdom, brother.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to wait. You guys just jump on in.
Something that I saw here, it's on 24, and it says, the diligent will rule while the lazy will be put to forced labor. So I think that that's pretty interesting right there, because it doesn't say the righteous will rule. It doesn't say people with morality will rule. It just says the diligent will rule. And so that makes me think that if we as believers aren't diligent and we just sit around and, aren't engaged, aren't doing stuff, that it doesn't necessarily have to be someone with the right intentions. It just has to be a diligent person that rules. And therefore, we at some point could actually become the lazy that will be put to forced labor.
I'm just looking at the Hebrew.
I know you're ignoring me, Alan.
Nope.
I totally get it. You're totally looking at your phone and just getting other things right now.
Hebrew for the word diligence.
Yeah, I can't see it in that screen, but okay.
Yeah, I'm reading. I'm like reading comics and stuff.
I'm
I'm watching a movie right here.
I don't know. That just I don't know. That really hit me because just like I know common sense is common sense, so you can be someone who is righteous or not, but if you have common sense, just like, money can be made by anybody if you have the wherewithal to go after it. So I don't know. I just thought that was pretty.
Yeah. Well, a
I
diligent
think
person is going.
Joanna too.
Go ahead.
I think Joanna as well. If you read all the top parts of the verses, we started with he who loves knowledge loves discipline, and you go down the line, then the diligent will rule. But they've done all of these other things to be able to be the diligent that does rule. Yeah, there could be diligent people that are not good people, but I think in this case, if you follow the Proverbs as we're reading them, then I think that's the diligent. And I don't know what the Hebrew says, Alan, but that would be my take on it, is that you have to do all of these other things to get to the point of the diligent ruler.
I don't read Proverbs like that, and maybe I'm incorrect in doing that. Because because the last time that we were on with, we were reading Proverbs and I was on it, there was a lot of just random stuff just about how, like, this is good, this is good, this is good, this is good, this is not good. You know what I mean? And I had brought up, I think it was something to do with wives and husbands or something like that. I guess I'm, he who loves knowledge loves discipline, but he who hates correction is a bore. No one is made secure by wickedness, but the roots of the righteous will never be moved. I mean, a capable wife is a crown for her husband, but a shameful one is like rot to his bones. I mean, is a diligent person, maybe he doesn't have a capable wife? Does that mean he's not going to rule? I mean, please explain to me how, unless there's a semicolon or unless there's a comma afterwards, and maybe grammatically I'm not getting this, I don't see how they all connect.
Well, in ancient Hebrew didn't have punctuation. So you've got that part too.
Okay.
So all the punctuation as far as commas and semicolons, those have all been added after the fact. So I wonder if maybe some of your confusion might seem more cohesive and for some of these chapters it might take a long time. But I wonder if some of the cohesion might come with a study in the Hebrew of like the whole chapter.
Well, I could hear where you're coming from, and however, we would have to take the whole Bible, take all the grammar out, and be like, oh my gosh. I'm going to assume, and please correct me if I'm wrong, if they're going to translate it, they're going to put the punctuations and the words that reflect in our language what is supposed to be being reflected in the Hebrew. And yes, I know there's some things that are lost in translation. I totally get that. But again, I'm just trying to figure out, how they all connect, in the sense that Jane or Jan. How do you say your name? Jane or Jan? I apologize.
Jane.
Jane.
Jane?
I know a Jan that's spelled exactly the same way. So I'm like, I always like to ask. So,
No worries.
Unfortunately, translators along through the centuries might put emphasis on places that they have come to believe this means such and such. And so they might change it that way. Anything that is in parentheses in our English translation is actually a comment from the translator and not an original translation. So you're going to have to be careful when you read. And I think, yeah, you're right. The whole Bible, you have to go through it in Hebrew in order to truly understand it. It's lifelong study. And I understand what you're saying about this feeling of, oh, this is patched together. And maybe it is. Maybe it's just dad coming out with some things that he's just letting it go, free form. Some of it is attached. I think it shouldn't be confusing us, but it should be, you have to ebb and flow with the Proverbs. At least that's my
well, my whole thing for us saying this is just to say the diligent will rule while the lazy will be put to forced labor. So I'm just saying, I guess my whole point was that here on earth, I believe that a diligent person can get to the top, whether they're righteous or not.
Sure.
And that was my whole,
Yes.
while the lazy will be put to forced labor.
Right.
So we as Christians need to look at that in many aspects of our life. So
Yes, God doesn't. It talks about how God doesn't repent of His gifts, and the gifts go before the man. So if you are born with the ability to make money, let's say the gift or the blessing, because it's a spiritual gift to make money. Let's say you have that and you're not a believer. He's not going to take that gift away from you. He's not going to take the qualities and the spiritual pieces. What Lance Wallnau uses the term gift cluster. He's not going to take away your gift cluster because you're not serving Him. That's not how it works. There's a cause and effect on this earth that He submits to because He set it up that way. You can have the ability to make money and not be righteous. We see that around us. That happens a lot. There's a whole bunch of different gifting, apostolic gifts that are used, Hitler, for example. So we see this example in this earth realm. But like Jay said, most Christians aren't shrewd, and I've been saved for 45 years. How is that possible? And I don't know if I've ever heard the teaching from a pulpit regarding the shrewd manager. And that's a parable that came out of Jesus' mouth. It's in the red letters. And most people won't touch it because they don't understand it. And because they don't understand it, they stay away from it. But it's talking about it has to do with money. Jesus talked a lot about money, which totally screws up the whole Christian left narrative. But anyway, and Jesus said that we have to be, if the children of light, believers, were as shrewd as the children of the world, they would have something to show for it. They would have something to show for their life here on earth. And the whole reason for the parable is we need to be shrewd. And was it in the field manual? I wrote "shrewd isn't rude" or something like that. One of the teachings. I don't remember where I got that, where that's from. I think it's the field manual. I don't remember. But Christianity is such a passive-aggressive, low common denominator religion. It's made up. It's made up primarily and ran by one talent type people. The majority of people that are 2, 4, 5, whatever talent type of people aren't actually in the church, or they're in pockets, hidden, because Christianity isn't and it's not a, it's what's the term? They're not. It's not made up of influencers. It's not made up by go-getters, and Christianity isn't made up of people like that. So, if you are shrewd, and if you're that type of personality, if you're that type of person, you're signaled out. You're put down by leadership. Not like, well, I've been put down like verbally, but like you're kept down by leadership. Leadership likes yes men. Those are the ones they're looking for, and those are the ones they're going to raise up to be their pastors and their elders and their pastors. I knew. So when I was 17, people were telling me I was the prophecies over me about being a prophet and an apostle. And so in my 30s, I was like, well, what the hell? This is never going to happen, because there's no church in the United States of America that would even make me an elder, let alone a pastor. So how the hell is this apostolic prophetic thing going to ever happen? It's just never going to happen, right? Because there's that saying, government loves unarmed peasants. Same thing applies to the church. Church leaders love unarmed sheep. Sheep that aren't going to rattle the cage, sheep that aren't going to rock the boat, ask the wrong questions. You're a threat. Because if they can't answer it, you make them look bad. I love doing that. My job is to make you look bad. My job is to break up as many bands as I possibly can when I was working with The Objective in Nashville. Because I'm trying to save them. I'm trying to save them from their soul. I'm trying to save their souls from death. They don't understand that what they want out of life, under the guise of God and Christianity, being in a Christian band, is one of the most deceptive things out there, and they're probably going to die pursuing that. In the same way, if I can shut down a church or convince people, this is why we do what we do here. What we've been sold, what we've been conned into buying into and believing, is not it's not first class. It's not top tier. It's low rung crap, and it's not acceptable. So
that we're like sorry.
Go ahead.
Is that where, like, would you say that could be an area where the gospel of the Nicolaitans kind of stuck its tendrils into the church?
Well, it's bigger than that. You got to remember, what church as we know it is a really bad multi-carbon copy. You remember those carbon copies, those blue things? What were they called? Carbon copies.
Carbon paper.
Yeah. Well, the more you do it, it fades away, right? If you don't do it from scratch. Well, so the Christianity as we know it is just a really, really, really atrociously bad carbon copy of a really bad model that Catholicism came up with. Because as Protestants, we come from that, right? As we're Reformed Catholics. So they did away with a whole bunch of stuff that just took away all our power, all our influence, and they were heavy-handed. It was a religious system. That's why Constantine did what he did, so he could rule the world, and he did. And that's why church and state was such an issue, right? All the kings would submit to the popes. This went on for centuries, till about the 16th century. That's a long freaking time. So
sorry.
They have to, as long as they can keep you down and oppress you and suppress you and tell you this is how it is, this is the way it is, this is how you're supposed to believe. I encounter this all the time. I told you what happened to me at the hotel just 2 weeks ago, right? It doesn't matter what the Bible says. These people believe the narrative that they've been told, and that narrative isn't to equip you and arm you for excellence, right? Jesus said, so here's the rabbi principle is this. The sign of a great rabbi is that his disciple will surpass him. That is not the way church is done. And it hasn't been done like that for 1,800 plus years, right? Because a pastor doesn't want you to surpass them. They're threatened by that. So, shrewd manager, They don't like shrewd is a threat. You can't be shrewd, regardless of what Jesus said, because being shrewd isn't very Christ-like. They're Christ. I don't buy into their Christ. We need to be shrewd.
Can I stay on that subject for a minute?
Sure.
Okay, so, and I think that it actually
What
ties
subject?
in-
I talked about 15 different things.
I know you did. I think it ties into the diligent rule and the Proverbs as well, because
It does.
that shrewd parable, it's always been something I'm like, why are they lifting up this guy that like went behind and like did all this stuff? And now make sure I'm talking about the same guy. The guy was about to get fired and he went and he like did all these backdoor deals and then was like, what? And so, it always baffled me because I'm telling on myself here. I am someone who finds loopholes. I look at loopholes and I'm like, okay, how can we if something's coming against me, because I've read a lot of contracts, I'm always looking at the words to figure out how either to get out of it, how to hold the other person, stuff like that. And not in a bad way, but in a because most contracts, when they're written by someone, it's to benefit them, not the other person, if we can agree with that. Okay. And if you're on the receiving end, you're like, okay, what's going on here? But so anyway, so I just, so what I'm hearing you say is, as a Christian, and in that, that parable, it's okay to be a person that looks and finds the loopholes and then uses them against the other person, in a sense. And not in a bad way, but to me, shrewd is like, here's the reality of it. And I say this because I was able, in my development, I was able to use the contract against the developer to get the developer off of our HOA board. Mm-hmm. So I saw it and I went, oh my gosh, here it is. So in life, and this is what I'm saying, where shrewd is, you're holding up a truth to somebody and going, hey, you know what? Especially if they're in the wrong. Am I making sense at all?
Yes. No, and yes, and that is what we're talking about. What did Jesus say? Okay, right? My favorite thing to do to Christians is to quote them their Bible back to them, because they don't know what it actually says, or they don't actually understand what it is that they think they're talking about. But what did Jesus say? In Matthew chapter 10, verse 16. This is the red letters again. Behold, I am sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. Okay? Let's look at that just for a second. Sheep in the midst of wolves. He's sending us as prey to predators. That's about as far as their thinking and their reasoning can go. Because you have to remember, and I've said this before, and I don't say it a lot because this is the best way I can explain it. And it's not flattering. It gets me in trouble. It's like, you shouldn't say it like that, Alan. You have to come up with a different way to say it. Look at Cynthia. She's like, yes, we're gonna get some juicy stuff. The majority of Christians weren't the cool kids. They weren't. They were the losers. They weren't popular. They weren't hooking up. They weren't being, invited to the right parties. They weren't being invited to parties. You know what I'm saying? They weren't the cool kids. They weren't in the in group. They just weren't. The majority of Christianity were not those people. And so that's why I believe dead religion and church and all that crap caters to them. I mean, because it's ran by guys like them who are trying to make, they've made something and now they can feel cool too. I did an interview, Brian Head Welch, when he first came out, he got saved. Brian Head Welch is a guitarist for Korn. And so he got saved and he disappeared for like 2 or 3 years. Then when he came out at Cornerstone Festival, and they put me to deal with him, right? Because it was an easy thing. It was easy for me. It was easier for me to do it than it was for them, because that's not where they come from. It totally makes my point. But I was the guy, and so I did. So I got to chat with him. Again, this was early on. Most people don't. Anyway, I'm not going to say what I was about to say. Anyway, so, and we were talking about that, and we were talking about how guys like us that come from, like, if you come from from the world, and you were like actually a mover and shaker in the world, or you were doing stuff in the world. You know what I'm saying? You were popular in the world, or you're doing stuff in the world, or you're in magazines, or whatever it is. Business, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be rock and roll, but that's my reference, because that's the majority of my life was in that. But anyway, so if you're in the world here, this is not going to attract us. This is going to do very little to capture our attention. Dead religion, there was no way in hell dead religion was ever going to convince me of anything about any of this. Dead religion was going to have absolutely nothing, has never had anything to offer me. Ever. Before or even after. But the true gospel of the kingdom, right? The real thing that we're talking about, the real thing that we talk about here, that's a whole different thing. That's a game changer. Not only is it a game changer, that will change my life. That'll transform my life. That'll completely change and rewire this, and rewire this, and rewire this. That's exciting. See, what don't you know the reason why Jesus sent them out, healing the sick, casting out demons, and raising their dead? Don't you know why he sent them out like that? Why did Jesus send them out doing that? That's Jesus's evangelistic model.
Yep.
You with your mouth you say the kingdom of heaven is at hand, and you back it up with freaking action. What's the kingdom? Heaven on earth. What does that look like? You're no longer sick. You're no longer blind. You're no longer deaf. You're no longer paralyzed. You're no longer riddled with unclean spirits. You're no longer possessed by demons. You're no longer dead. That's the gospel of the kingdom. And he sent them out doing that. Why? What do you think is going to change heads? Turn heads. What do you think is going to turn heads? And what do you think is going to change lives? The goofy freaking Christian with a track that has absolutely no spine. I just edited myself, right? They have no spine. They have no power. They have no authority. They have literally nothing to offer you. Oh, and then, but Alan, his heart. No one cares about his heart. I can't see his heart. I'm not God. And I know his heart is evil and wicked. But healing the sick, casting out demons, raising the dead, delivering people from spiritual bondage, physical bondage, that's a game changer. That's a whole different, we're talking something completely different. That's going to get my attention. And it did. In the same way, Jesus is telling us he's going to send us out like sheep among wolves. You better have a, how are you going to survive that? How are you going to do Ephesians 6? We've talked about that before. Most Christians don't even believe in the spiritual realm. Ephesians 6 is going to chew them up and spit them out.
Yeah,
So what's that? What's that?
if they preach it.
Yeah. So he tells us he's going to send us out. He's already giving us, he's forewarning us. I'm sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. So, so. It doesn't just end there. Be wise as serpents. Oh, wait. Snakes are bad. And innocent as doves. How are we supposed to be wise as serpents? Well, then you're going to have to know a little. You have to know a little something about serpents. How am I going to be wise as a serpent if I don't have a freaking clue about serpents?
Can you talk about that in a sense of?
I have to.
What
I have to know my enemy. My enemy is a serpent, right? He's a dragon.
But it was after that you said as innocent as a dove, and I've never heard it as innocent. I've heard it as gentle as a dove.
Well, innocent is in the English Standard, but I'm sure the word
But can you, what like, know your person, but as gentle as a dove? So like use nice words.
No, we're talking spiritual. I can walk into a room, not say a single thing, be quiet, innocent, meek, and topple authorities.
Yeah, never heard it explained that way. So
Well, because there's reasons. So we're talking about spirituality here. We're not talking about nice words, and we're not talking about that. We're talking about spirituality here. Spiritual things. If he's sending me, am I really a sheep among wolves? No. But see the analogy. The wolves are the predator to the prey sheep, right? That's like and I'm supposed to be as wise as a serpent, which means what? I have to be cunning. I have to be crafty. I have to be sly. I have to be... Jay? Oh, he's no longer here, is he? Nope.
no.
Right?
No,
You have to be shrewd.
Outside the box.
And outside the box. You have to be shrewd. Lance Swano says we have to be sheep in wolves' clothing. I'm a chameleon. I can do that. That's what I do. It doesn't matter. I can walk into a corporate white collar boardroom and do my thing. I can walk among punks. I can walk among whatever. But we're talking kingdom. They didn't teach you this. Christians can't teach you this because they're not those people. Because they can't do that either. I've shared multiple times about this lesbian club in Lower East Side Manhattan in the Alphabet side of the city where we played a show. And afterward, people lined up because they didn't know what had just happened to them, because we brought heaven into that room, into that space. And I was explaining that to someone, and they said, "Well, why would you do that? Why would you even go there and play?" And it's like, really? It's like, see that disconnect? That's a massive gap. That's why the Pharisees were busted on Jesus for eating with prostitutes, male and female, and tax collectors. Why would you do that? If you're Messiah, you wouldn't do that. You would not let that woman do that to you if you knew what kind of woman she was. What kind of a prophet do you think you are? And if you're not a prophet, there's no way in hell you can be Messiah. And he goes, "Oh, I know exactly who she is. She's preparing me for my burial." What she's doing is so in the spiritual realm, and because you're not, here's what you see. You see a woman of ill repute pouring oil on my feet and wiping with her hair. You're seeing something perverse because you're in the flesh, because you're carnal minded. But in the spiritual realm, she's preparing me for my burial. See, it's just it's such a huge gap. And so that's why we teach people how to wax on and wax off, and paint the fence. Because while you're learning how to do that, the idea is you'll eventually get to the point of understanding, oh, you're actually teaching me how to fight. You're actually teaching me how to walk in kingdom. You're actually teaching me how to think differently. You're actually teaching me how to process differently. You're actually teaching me how to see things differently, hear things differently. But you can't just go, no. You have to learn like this because that's all people can do. That's all people can understand at the moment. See? And so it's a funnel, right? Everyone's at a different place, different level. And so you're balancing all these various personalities at all these various levels of spiritual understanding. And it's not just spiritual understanding, it's also physical understanding. Right? Because if you can't get up in the morning and do sweet FA, chances are you're not going to be able to do much in the spiritual realm. See? Jesus said, how are you going to understand anything that I have anything to tell you about the spiritual when you're not even understanding the basics of the physical realm? That's why I bring up community living. They can't turn off the light when they leave the room. They won't clean up after themselves. They can't even wash their own laundry. You've seen those memes. Oh, I'm going to have a global ministry, but they can't clean toilets or help stack chairs. Mm-hmm. Good luck with all that. Same thing.
Well, I guess, and I get that you're saying it's spiritual, the whole wise as a serpent, gentle as a dove, but I guess with Proverbs, in my opinion, and maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, Proverbs is kind of like a way to take knowledge into practical application. Okay, that's what I get from Proverbs, is it's the practical application of how to live your life.
Right.
And so the shrewd parable, to me, is a practical application on how to be. Even though it's a parable, it's literally like you've got to think in this world and you have to know what's going on around in your world. And yep. I could be wrong with that.
No, that's exactly what I just said. And everything we do around here is a practical application of Scripture in your life.
Okay, but the practical application, and again, maybe I'm too much in my head, all right? But wise as a serpent, gentle as a dove, you said that's the spiritual application.
Well, it could also be physical.
I'm sorry, what?
It could also be physical. I mean,
okay, that was my question.
It's all encompassing, right?
So that's my
you can get angry, but don't sin in your anger, right? I mean, that's another exactly the same principle of being like a serpent, but gentle as a dove, or innocent as a dove, is anger, but sin not.
And it's the opposite of how Churchianity wants to teach when Paul said, I am all things to all people. The church twists that piece to say, see, I can go and eat a ham sandwich with this guy if that means if I can bring him to Jesus doing that. That's not what Paul was saying.
No.
So he's saying, though, just like how Alan's saying, I can be the white collar person in the boardroom, I can be the punk, I can be, right? So you start seeing where and when you're going to, so sure, I might have this level of scripture, but depending on who I'm with, I'm only going to talk about this much when it has an application to what they're going through in order just to put out some crumbs and see what happens. If it's a person that has no religious background, no interest, right? I'm going to keep it really simple with that person, but I'm also not going to change or limit my following of God's commandments in order to do that. Does that help a little bit?
That I guess where I'm saying is that when I hear wise as a serpent, gentle as a dove, and I appreciate everything you said, but I look at that as because of cunning, knowing your enemy, knowing your person, your opponent. You're not when you're wise as a serpent, gentle as a dove, you're not going in to make friends at that point. I take it, he was like, look, when you're going into a place, you're going to be with people that are probably going to come at you. Because being as wise, why do you have to be cunning in a place that is friendly or that you're trying to spread
I walk
the word?
into churches
I get that.
cunning
but that's what
cunning as a serpent.
okay, but what I'm trying to say is that when you're being, again, I'm not going to go into people that I know are the same spiritual level or that are actually seeking God. I'm not going to come in as wise as a serpent because they're actually seeking God. When I think you're going wise as a serpent, you're going into a place that is a den of probably enemies, whether it's a church or not a church.
No, that's not correct. For example,
Okay.
I walk into a ministry situation. Just because I'm there for ministry doesn't mean I'm laying hands on everybody that wants to be laid hands on. Oh, hell no. I have to figure out, I have to determine whether or not I'm supposed to even lay hands on you, let alone pray for you, let alone touch you. You know, it just doesn't work like that. Right? Just because I'm in a church doesn't mean those people are friendlies.
No, get the whole church thing out. I'm
or
not
whatever.
talking about that.
Doesn't
Okay.
matter where I am. The grocery store, a concert, a church, after a Sunday afternoon after church barbecue. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Going outside to get the mail. My spiritual
using
my spiritual situational awareness is on, because I know who I am, I know where I am, and I know the realm I walk in, and I know the realm I'm walking in. Somebody comes up to your merch table and says, is that sticker free? Yes. Can I have one? Yeah. Knowing that they're taking that to go and do some sort of freaking ritual with it to try and curse me. Dave, go ahead.
I was going to say to your point, Alan, take any one of 100 examples using me and make a point about it, because uh, uh, I guarantee Alan and Christina's interactions with myself and Tracy, they do this all the time. So whether it's in community, whether it's in discipleship, whether it's in a bar, whether it's in a church, this is their personality and their authority, and they walk in this. So being snake-like, I don't. Don't let that come across wrong.
Man,
But
that's awesome.
But that's, I mean, it's.
All right, we just went from chameleon to snakes.
But it's everything is a test. Everything is a test, whether it's meant to be or not. And we might you might not realize it's a test until take purchasing a property. We might not realize it's a test for 8 years, and then all of a sudden we're texting with a group of guys, and I'm like, oh man, so I blew that, and confess it, and all of a sudden something that I've been working on for literally since the first conference broke and exploded, and I mean, so everything. It's not just and it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, and that's the epitome of the small thing of being able to be corrected, and that's a good teacher. That's a good discipler. Is that a word?
I think so.
Rabbi, that a teacher. I'm not sure what I'm allowed to say and what I'm not allowed to say. That's a good him authority. That's a good that teach me and instructor, and so I'll stop there.
Joanne, a lot of the stuff that you do is going to require that, as you already know. Right?
Yes. Which is why and working in the South, everyone here is Christian. It's the whole gentle or innocent as a dove part.
So you just be nice about it, but don't be a. Here's the thing: I try to be nice as much as I can. I know people don't believe that, but it's true. But I'm not a doormat, and I'm not stupid enough to not know that you're coming at me when you're coming at me. Mm-hmm. And so, because a lot of people will play the whole passive aggressive thing, and I'll go, and then I'll go, bam, and they're like, whoa, oh, you're so. Like I had a Muppet the other day say, "Oh, he misquoted a passage regarding meat eating," and I told him that he was ridiculous and not to post that crap on my wall. And he goes, "Oh, somebody's triggered by the Bible." See, the guy's absolutely clueless. I'm not a doormat, but because people aren't sincere, they're conniving, they're little frickin' spawns of Satan, and they come at you with this passive aggressive Christian thing, and I'm like, no, and they're like, oh, so they flip it, and then you just hang them with it. It's just. I'm going to be, I will die for people. I will die for you. There's your dove thing, but I'm not a freaking idiot. And, it's a combination. Look at Jesus. Jesus didn't take crap from no one. Apparently, Jesus could stay in the desert without food and water for 40 days. That'll kill the rest of us. And he was the gentlest, humblest lamb, but he was a lion inside. Look at how he took on those Pharisees. But he bled for them as well. See, there's our example of being as wise as a serpent and gentle as a dove. That serpent took on the ruling authority, the ruling religious authority, and told them they were basically sons of hell and that they were going to die and go to hell. Meanwhile, legions running down the hill to attack him, and when he got within proximity, he fell on his face. There's your gentle dove. Jesus could have annihilated him. He could have just gone, no. He could have done the Matrix thing and just, the guy would have blown up. Instead, the love and compassion made him stop, fall on his face, delivered him from all those demons, and cast him into the swine. What were they doing with swine on the Golan Heights? Mm-hmm. Jesus is a great example of what we're talking about. Being as wise as a serpent and as gentle as a dove, or as innocent as a dove. Anything else? Anyone else?
Just one last thing. I've actually read this before, and it was definitely very wise. But on 16, it says, "A fool's anger is known at once, but a cautious person slighted conceals his feelings." And I thought that was pretty pretty wise, because that's where the whole God is giving you a spirit of strength, love, and self-discipline, is being able to control this
Poker face.
this while you're talking with people.
While it's happening.
They're like, so yeah.
I don't think I have a good poker face. Well, you saw me a couple weeks ago. Somebody fell out of their chair, and I'm like, "Oh look, hey, someone just fell out of your chair. Hey, are you okay?" Here's the way: if a pastor is discreetly going to pass you a tissue, I'm going to look at you and go, "Dude, wipe that crap off your face." There's the difference. I don't have a poker face. Oh man.
I noticed something on Proverbs 14. We were talking about how all of them seem to, it compares the
Sure.
incorrect to the correct. But 14 is all good. There is no comparison there.
It must be a typo.
Yeah. From the fruit of his lips, a man is filled with good things, as surely as the work of his hands reward him. And then there's only one other time that it happens like that. It's the last one, 28. In the way of righteousness, there is life. Along that path is immortality.
Mic drop. Oh, I should have turned this off right there. Bam.
Anyway, it was just an observation.
Well, thank you for your observation.
You're welcome.
Looking forward to your observations in real life.
Okay, I'm going.
I know.
There's a whole story about my I won't go there. Okay. My passport and all this. Anyway, it's all that bureaucracy stuff, but God showed a way, and I think I'm going to be good. So the scripture you referenced in Matthew, I'm sending you out like sheep among wolves, therefore be as shrewd as snakes, and as innocent as doves. The next sentence is, be on your guard against men. And then he describes who those men are. They're going to hand you over to the local council and flog you in their synagogues. So he's talking about the religious people.
Yeah. So much for church and state.
Yeah, on my account, you're going to be brought for governors and kings and all that. When they arrest you, not if and maybe, but when they arrest you, do not worry about what to say or how to say it. At that time, you will be given what to say, for it will not be you speaking, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you.
Wow. Yeah.
Totally spiritual. So.
Yep. So
all men will hate you because of me. Yikes. Okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah. So that suggests that there's an actual place or a space in a synagogue to beat people. Woohoo!
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah, flog you in their synagogues. Yeah. Anyway, that's great stuff there,
Well,
right there.
It's like, and we've mentioned this before. I'm pretty sure. I'm gonna say. I can't back it up. I can't prove it, but I'm gonna say. Judas thought he was functioning from a place of discernment when he turned Jesus in.
That's the only thing that makes sense to me. He thought he was right.
He thought he was right. He thought he was doing a good thing. Jesus wasn't the Messiah,
After all,
or something.
Whatever. Yeah.
And it was best to get rid of him. And that was the best, that was the way. And he was able to make a couple bucks from it. He was already stealing from the till. So it says that we do know. So, he thought he was doing the right thing. He thought he was functioning from discernment, spiritual. And I've met these people. I encounter these people all the time. And it's very difficult to explain to them how, yeah, that sounds correct, but yeah, no, you're demonic, bro. let's just put that out there.
I really like what she just read. One can be filled with good as a result of one's words, and one gets the reward one's deeds deserve. One can be filled with good as the result of one's words. What do you, I mean, since Cynthia picked that out, I'm just curious, what does that how does that, you like, one can be filled with good as the result of one's words. So because you're someone, I guess
Words have power.
that could even interpret, and I'm going to this whole thing again, but someone who is really good with their words can get places if they just say the right thing.
Yeah.
So that can be interpreted that way, right?
No, it can be, we know that there's people out there that are really good at what they do. Swindlers, con men, blah, blah, blah. And that they might be able to pull that off for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. They might even be able to pull it off all the way to the grave. But at some point, whether it's here or in the after, here or later, they're going to have to answer for that.
Well, I'm not talking spiritual. I'm talking about practicality on earth.
Right.
You know
So
what I mean?
practicality on earth. There's a lot of good people. There's a lot of people out there that are silver tongued and can con people out of everything, right? Mm-hmm. And they're not good people, but they will eventually, whether they pay for it now or later, they're going to pay for it.
Well, that's where it says, and one gets the reward one's deeds deserves. So that what I'm saying is, then you go into and, you know what I mean? But I'm just saying the practicality is really someone that is really good with words could really, one can be filled with good as a result of one's words.
But you have to understand.
But one can be filled with good. Hold on a second, though. So how can you be filled with good? Is that like you can be filled with good as a result of one's words, meaning like speaking truth over yourself?
So you have to understand that the good people that are being spoken about here in Proverbs, regardless, doesn't matter what Proverbs we read, they're a righteous person. They're a godly person.
Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, the one can be filled with good as a result of one's words. Is that like?
But we know that that's not possible. The only reason why that person is good is because of God, because he's doing all the other stuff. See, if in the Proverbs, a person that is good is a godly person that's doing all the stuff, all of the stuff. He's not just saying good things out of his mouth, and that's what makes him good. It's the whole enchilada. That's why these proverbs are known as wise sayings. So from the fruit of his mouth, a man is satisfied with good, because you speak from your heart. And the work of a man's hand comes back to him. You reap what you sow. A slothful person isn't going to reap anything because he's slothful. He's not out there working his field or his land or whatever. Go ahead, Frank.
That's the word I was waiting for, Alan. This whole thing, Jana, is about Torah, and reaping and sowing. The law of reaping and sowing. So when you go to the Proverbs, that's a simple scope that you put on reaping and sowing, Torah. And how do I, as a person, line up with the Torah and the reaping and sowing? What am I going to reap if I sow this? If I sow this, what am I going to reap? That's the whole basis. Right on, Alan.
Well, thank you, Frankie, baby.
And I get that. I'm just saying, like, I'm just saying that if you look at this, it's all practicality. We're on earth. And some things people can just do and still get good results. But I was just saying, as far as it be filled with good as a result of one's words, and I just asked that because, what we say about ourselves and what we claim over ourselves is very important. And I think that you guys agree with that. You know what I mean? So I just thought maybe it was like, pertaining to that, because then it says
It could
later,
pertain to that.
Huh?
It could pertain to that.
Because then when it says that anxiety in a person's heart weighs him down, but a kind word cheers him up. So I was just saying words are very important.
Yes, they are. That is true. Jen, this is your second time here. It's like Fight Club. You gotta fight. No, I'm just kidding. Oh man, I've never seen that movie. It's rated R. I don't know. I've only heard about it. I don't know what's going on there. It has something to do with IKEA. I know that much. And then if you didn't have an IKEA when that movie came out, and most of Middle America didn't, you had no idea what the movie was about. I heard. That's what I heard. All right. Is there anything else? Would anybody else like to share? I'm going to take the silence as a no. Cool. All right. Tomorrow morning, I think we're doing a Chameleon Church show. Should we do a Chameleon Church show tomorrow morning? I mean, it's only been like 18 years or something. The hand says yes. Let me see that hand. There, look at that. Thumbs up with the hand. All right. So I don't know what day it is. Today's Monday. I don't know what the date is or anything. I don't know what's going on out there. But tomorrow morning, 8:45 a.m. Central, we're doing a thing called the Chameleon Church Show. No idea what we're talking about. If you have any idea of what we should talk about, put it in the comments tomorrow morning when you're looking at us, because we won't be able to look at you all. Anybody know what the countdown is? What's today? 21, 2, 3, 23 days? Omer count, 23 days? That's what? We're almost halfway. Ooh. We will see you guys like in 3 weeks. Dang. Frank, I heard you're getting picked up by somebody and going camping or something. When are you going to be here to help me load up, bro? Don't forget about me. Going out there like Rabbi Salamander or whatever it is your name is.
Sand crab.
Sand crab, Rabbi Sand crab. Don't forget, we got work to do here, brother. Going camping and stuff. Whatever, dude. Whatever. When you arrive in that airport, you take a taxi straight to my house and you get to work, brother. Nope, he's gonna go camping. He's gonna go play. So it's okay, dude. No problem. I've gone this far without you. Oh man. Jen, he started it. Your brother started it. He started, right? You know this about him. Yeah, yeah, there you go. All right, we will see you in the Mañanita. Do you guys know that? That's Texan too.
Baruch drenched tears. My eyes have grown weary and sorrowfully weak. And now they have failed me for all of my I'm a stranger among them, an alien son. While the gatekeepers mock me with a drunken song, I am old and forsaken, and my strength is gone. Yet I'm always within you, and you hold my hand. So I'll proclaim your decrees, and you will make me your son. With my heart I will praise you, and your wonders I'll tell. I will lay down in peace, in your safety I'll dwell. I will guard all my ways, lest I sin with my mouth. Redeem the impure, stand before you in anger, oppose you in court, so they're clean without sin. I'll proclaim your decrees, and you will make me your son. With my heart I will praise you, and your wonders I'll tell. I will lay down in peace, and in your safety I'll dwell. I will guard all my ways, as I sin with my mouth. Redeem the impure, stand before you in anger, oppose you in court, set the clean without sin. I'm a stranger among them, an alien son. While the gatekeepers mock me with a drunken song, I am old and forsaken, and my strength is gone. Yet I'm always within you, and you hold my hand.
The views and opinions expressed during our broadcasts are solely those of the broadcast producers, hosts, and/or guests, etc., and are not necessarily the views or opinions of the Travelog Network, its sponsors, or affiliates.